It wasn't the first time it had happened, but it caught me off guard. It was a busy rush hour in Times Square subway station a couple months ago. I was late, or at least about to be late, to a meeting that I had a hunch could be a big deal for my career. I stood on the platform, staring down the tunnel, hoping to see the light of a subway approaching and hoping it was the right subway to get me to my meeting on time. It's a game all New Yorkers play where they wait for the light at the end of the tunnel and hope it's their light. I was looking for the N train, and as I saw the light start to appear in the tunnel, I saw the familiar yellow glow of the circle for the N train, and I thought I was in luck. But as it got closer, I didn't see an N where the N was supposed to be. Instead, I saw the letter W. W train. I've been in New York for 8 years, and I've never heard of a W train. What is this train doing in the space that I needed it to be to get me to where I wanted to go on time? So frantically, I grabbed my subway app, I open it up, and I look to see, is there a W train? And according to my map, there wasn't. But according to all the other hundreds of passengers on the platform, it was, and it was going to take them where they wanted to go. As they boarded and the doors closed, I Googled W train and saw that it had just been recently re-added to the New York subway system to allow for some of the expansion that had taken place. That train was going to actually take me to where I wanted to go faster than the train that I thought that I was waiting for. I looked at my app, very disappointed, and said, why is it not on my app? This is preposterous. I needed this information. I needed to be there. And I looked down in the bottom corner of my app, and it said, copyright 2013. I then went to leave a very mean review on the App Store, as all good New Yorkers do, and realized this company had gone out of business in 2013, and I'd been using an old, outdated map to navigate one of the more complex cities in the world. I said this wasn't the first time it had happened, but the map that I found out was out of date previously was the map for my career and for how I thought about education. Growing up, I was taught that if you do well in school, you'll get into a good college. If you do well in college, you'll get a good first job. And that first job will likely lead you to a safe, successful, and secure career. That's the narrative that worked for my parents, it's the narrative that worked for their parents. My dad will retire from having worked for the same company his entire career, and I'm jealous of that. Because in the 12 years since I've graduated from college, I've had 8 different business cards. And when my parents ask me, what do you do? I say, just tell people I do startup stuff. It's easier. Because from time to time, things change. In the startup world, and in the innovative world, you're constantly having the opportunity to step up to what comes next. If your company succeeds or if it fails, you're unemployed 3 years later. Sometimes it gets bought by a bigger company and you move on. Sometimes it bombs and you have to try again. Constantly reinventing yourself and looking at that map was something that I started to think about. But then when I started to think about why is this map so outdated, I realized that it was because the map was created in a very unique period in time. Right after the Industrial Revolution, almost all of the jobs that were available had something to do with the input, the manufacturing, or the distribution of factories. Very simple, very predictable. These are the 10 things you should go learn how to do. One of those 10 things will give you a successful career for the period of time that you need it. And at the end, the company will thank you for your loyalty by helping you retire with grace and dignity. That has never happened before in the history of the world, and it's now never going to happen again. That was a special window, and it's a great story that I wish was still available to us, but it's not. Careers are dead, and you should euthanize yours. You should just go ahead and take Lassie out back and shoot it in the head. That is no longer available to you. That is not a story that you get to take with you anymore. That worked for people that are older than me. It does not work for anybody younger than me. The future is going to be completely different for a lot of different reasons. The rules that we played by in the past will no longer be available to us in the future. And I know because I played by those rules and I got lost. I did what I was told to do. I learned the game. And I got as far into it as I could before I realized this isn't going where I want to go. And when it comes to rules, I'm a fan of rules. Growing up in my family, we played card games, we played board games. We didn't watch a whole lot of TV. We were a pretty competitive family as it was. My brother and I would compete to see who could read the rules first, because rules tell you where competitive advantages lie. And if you're playing a game for the first time, the rules are going to kind of point you in the direction of where that goes. So I did the same thing with how I approached junior high and high school, as well as college. Even within my first job after graduating from the best university in the world, I got into my first job and I said, what does it take to be number one in the entire United States of America as a first-year associate in this firm? I just wanted to know. I figured that was a good question to ask, and so they told me. And I said, okay, well, if that's the rules, let's figure this out. And I kind of reverse hacked it, and wouldn't you know, a year later, I had achieved that goal. I said, that was the rule, that's how we play. And I remember it very clearly, driving down 635 in Dallas, Texas. I get a phone call from the managing partner of the firm and said, congratulations, Andy, you are now number one in the country. And I thought, this is supposed to feel different. I worked for this. I thought this is what it was all about. What's missing here? So I went a little bit further, and I said, okay, well, if I continue to kind of excel and I continue to kind of be on the fast track, I was given resources that other people weren't given. I was put into management meetings at the age of 24. It's like, if I keep doing this, what happens? I fired my mentor because in meetings we were comparing notes as opposed to him teaching me. I was like, what am I missing? There's something different here. And I realized that if I fast forwarded my life for 10 years and assumed a 20% increase year over year of what the best person 10 years down the road was doing, just to see what that would look like, I decided that wasn't the map. That wasn't the story that I wanted to live my life by. And so I did something very hard. I just stepped away, jumped off the cliff, and said, I don't know how I'm going to build my wings, but I'm going to on the way down. And I failed. Oh, buddy, I failed. I heard about startups, and I was like, this is great. This is where I'm going. First two startups I worked at both failed within a year. CEOs of both companies didn't raise enough money, didn't quite have their business plan quite right. And so I jumped back into a little bit more of a safe harbor because I knew that there were still skills that I needed to develop in order to take my career where I wanted to go. So I got into a luxury sales company, a private jet company owned by Warren Buffett. Now let me tell you, cold calling celebrities, athletes, and billionaires is a great way to spend your 20s. When people asked me what I did for a living, I told them I was the most addictive drug dealer in Dallas, Texas. Because once you had a taste of what I was selling, you would do whatever it took to keep going. And I learned a lot there. I got some incredible connections. I got to meet people who were titans of their own industries. The celebrities and the athletes, that was great and that was fun. But I got to meet people who had built companies, sold companies, people who had taken personal risk and had done well. And it was actually in one of those conversations with one of my clients that I was bragging about the people who I'd been selling access to planes to. And I told him about how I'd seen them play on Sunday with the Dallas Cowboys and how that they were playing on the Dallas Mavericks and this, that, and the other. And he said, hey, Andy, that's really cool, and I'm really proud of you, but my limo driver can tell me better stories. Don't limo drive your way through life, he said to me. He said, don't settle for knowing the man if you have what you think it takes to become the man. Go take some risks of your own. So I did. Again, jumped out and said, this is a good path for some people, but it's not the right path for me. And I jumped into technology startups where I figured out in a lot of technology situations, people are afraid of sales guys. People are afraid of the guy who's coming in and trying to sell them something. And I figured out if I could reel it back just a little bit and be a business development professional, then I could make it in the technology space. And I have done that for the past 8 years. I've been a part of 3 different companies that have been built and sold. One of them, a lot of people have heard of, called Waze, thinking about maps. I had the opportunity to open the New York office and build out that team prior to its acquisition by Google. I helped build another company that we sold to Facebook. I'm in the process of building 2 companies right now that I'm very proud of. And in each of those situations, I found my unique skill set and the unique situations that I was able to walk in and provide value immediately. But I continued to kind of think through and say, what does this map look like and where does it go from here? And as I did, I started to think about what does it look like for a much broader audience. I've started to figure out which parts of my map make sense for me, but what does it look like to layer on different skill sets? What does it take to layer on different experiences and put it all in one place? And I started to think about those decoder rings, where if you have the red lens, you can see one thing, and the green lens, you can see another thing, and the blue lens, you can see another thing. That's kind of what I feel like everyone's map looks like, is that you get different lenses at different times that allow you to see different parts of your map, different parts of the story, the narrative that makes sense for you going forward. And there's a lot of different ideas as far as what that looks like, as far as the future of work, the future of education, and the future of what we do with our lives. I've had the opportunity to meet some incredible entrepreneurs. Some of the brightest minds out there have been advisors to companies I've worked with, have been investors in companies I've worked with. They're anywhere from folks that you see on the news every morning to people that are now working in the White House to people that have written the books that say this is where things are going. And as I've talked with them, there really seem to be 4 different views of what the future looks like. There's the optimists and there's the pessimists. There's the people that are focused on the technology side of things and people that are focused on the people side of things. So if we start with the people and the human aspect, but the pessimists, the Luddites, those are people that are probably carrying a BlackBerry right now, that have an AOL or a Hotmail email address, or maybe have said, that's just not for me, leave me a message on my home telephone line. Somebody's gonna do that, it's not my thing. Okay. But then there's the people that are on the pessimistic side of things that think technology is where the entire future goes. And that's what we're talking about, Black Mirror, or Westworld, or going old school, Terminator and the Matrix, where computers take over and we all die. Those people are starting to actually raise their hand and say, yeah, that's me, right? It used to be kind of fan fiction, but now it's mainstream. The other side, and this is probably the one that gets the most headlines, is the people that are optimistic about the future, but think that the future will be defined and only has to do with the technology that creates it. A very common phrase is software eats the world. And in context, that makes sense, but in the expansive nature that it's been taken to, it's a little bit rough right now. I think that Silicon Valley is doing an incredible job of harnessing a unique place to create unique solutions to unique problems. But I think that a lot of times their scope is very limited. In fact, it's somewhat speculative as far as what the future could look like. It says, if all of these things fall into place the way that we, the titans of this industry, have decided that they might, this is what happens next. The company I'm building right now is called Basket. Basket is a smart shopping list, and we are helping people find the best prices on their groceries so they can save time and money by providing transparency across all grocery stores. If you tell me what's on your shopping list this week, I'll tell you every store close by that carries all the products and what the total price will be at each store for your entire basket of goods. And I was sitting with a venture capitalist in San Francisco, and I said to him, I said, what do you think? He says, Andy, this is incredible. The data that you guys have pulled out is absolutely, absolutely incredible. 170,000 stores with 50,000 products in each store. You guys have up-to-date pricing on all of that, but I think you missed the market. I said, I'm sorry? He goes, okay, let's be honest. Does anyone actually go to the grocery store anymore? Everyone just gets it delivered. And I said, sir, I think you need to leave Silicon Valley, just for 20 minutes. Just drive down to San Jose. Like the Stop and Shop there is packed. But in his lens, everything's food delivery, everything is on demand, and he thought that we completely missed the market. And it was a fascinating narrative, fascinating story for us to think through. And that's where I think the biggest opportunity is, the optimistic side of the future, but a people-focused and a people-centered future. In thinking through that, the innovations that are happening in Silicon Valley and in technology around the world are no question going to change the game for everyone. Artificial intelligence, quantum computing are going to totally revolutionize most industries. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, drones. They're all going to come together and they're going to take place. But they're going to change things, and the automation that they're going to bring is similar to the automation that the factories brought 70, 80, 100 years ago, where instead of humans doing menial tasks over and over and over again, where they're saying, do this thing and do it for 8 hours a day and then go home, if you can explain how to do something, in the future a computer will be taught how to do it and will do it. And that's great. Will that change what the jobs landscape looks like? Absolutely. Will that change what politicians say when they say, I'm going to keep this many jobs or I'm going to bring this many jobs? 100%. Computers are going to take a lot of those jobs. But in the process, in the way that the Industrial Revolution freed up the security and provided security and consistency to people that were able to take advantage of that period of history, the future, the creative economy that's coming now is going to free up people who had previously been not part of the solution class to be thinking through how we solve big problems. Instead of following specific sets of rules, you're going to be defined at your job by how you solve problems. And that, to me, gets me really excited. There's going to be a lot more supply of people to solve the problems that we all know exist, but we haven't had the resources to go solve. And I think when we think about that the idea of what that looks like is that instead of having careers, there's going to be the opportunity for us to have callings. The thing that we say, this is a problem that I personally want to be a part of finding a solution for. We're going to be able to find other people who want to be a part of having that solution. Today, you've heard incredible ideas about different problems that are being solved in different ways. And I think that in the future, with the automation of some of the more menial tasks that are going to be automated through technology, there's that opportunity to step in. Because when we look at it, the skills that are being taught right now, the premium skills, like let's say developers, people that know how to code, those are also going to have the ability to be automated. And if you just change the skills that you're learning, if you just focus on, well, I'm going to get ahead of and add some more skills to my resume, that's not the point. It's a mindset shift. That instead of doing school for 20 years and then working for 40 years and then hoping that there was a retirement next, it's going to be school for a period of time, work for a period of time, school for a period of time, work for a period of time, and finding places where you can continue to reset and recharge and keep yourself going forward. I helped found an academy in South America called Exosphere. And over the past 5 years, we've had 1,500 students from 45 different countries come through our program and give themselves a little bit of a leg up on what comes next. Some of it's through emerging technology, some of it's through entrepreneurship, some of it's through community. We believe the two biggest pain points that most people are dealing with in life is doing work that's out of alignment with their calling and broken relationships with other people. And entrepreneurship helps with the first, and community helps with the second. And in the process, we're focusing on artificial intelligence, biohacking, blockchain, and things along those lines. And so when I think about the difference between a career and a calling, I think about the difference between an updated map and an expired map. That the personal responsibility that is ahead of us is the true opportunity for what comes next in the future of work, education, and our lives. That if we continue to update our map and go through the icky part of the hard work that we want to do, when we see the new train that we don't recognize, we're going to know it might actually be taking us to the place we need to go. Thank you.